Hey guys, what's going on? Me, Jay. I want to do a video briefly on um, recently the Lion King 2019 was on, and I thought maybe it'd be fun to compare the Lion King 2019 to the Lion King of the original in 1994, and some of the things I liked versus some of the things I didn't like. One of the things I liked, some things I liked about the newer version, which is not much, admittedly. I prefer the original version. I grew up with the original version. To me, the original version is the version that made history in movie theaters and was the pinnacle of the Disney Renaissance in the late 80s and early 90s. And after that, Disney kind of hit a plateau where they never really produced any other films after that that were great up until Good Morning, Lisa. How are you? Up until Frozen in 2013. So that was like a 20-year stretch, practically a 20 or 19-year stretch where they didn't produce anything groundbreaking. But Lion King was that plateau in 1994. Um, a brief little background: Lion King was also very revolutionary with Disney because all the other um, Disney Renaissance films were based on stories that already existed, such as Aladdin from Arabian Nights or The Little Mermaid from Hans Christian Andersen's um, poetry, or Beauty and the Beast, which was a French fairy tale, um, that was adapted to animated form. But The Lion King was made from scratch. Yeah, of course, it contained certain influences from other stories. The three key influences from that Disney, the writers of The Lion King, based it on was the biblical story of Moses, the biblical story of Joseph, and William Shakespeare's Hamlet. Um, but they gave their own twist to it. And the stylistic style was influenced by a Japanese author named Osamu Tezuka, who created a Japanese manga or a Japanese comic book um, called Kimba the White Lion, which Disney later adapted into Simba. And that's what the sketch was based on. Of course, later Disney got sued for it by this Japanese producer, saying basically, look, you ripped off my design for your main character and I didn't get compensated. But Disney disputed it, saying that, of course, their lion was called Simba and the lion in the manga was called Kimba. So here you see my cat is sort of like Simba. he, he comes in the shot pretty often. He's sort of like Simba roaming around his pride. Um, the characters' names are based on Swahili names. The place setting is South Africa, and it's the Serengeti region between Tanzania and Kenya. Um, and the 2019 version is just basically the same retelling of it with different actors. For example, instead of Jonathan Taylor Thomas playing the voice of Simba, you have Donald Glover playing the voice of Simba instead, and you have also Beyonce, who was the main draw of the movie. See, Beyonce was the real reason why a lot of people went to see this. A lot of people didn't really like Disney was doing since like 2016, 2015 with the Jungle Book. They were doing all their classic animated movies into live action remakes, and they were very successful with the Jungle Book, very successful with Beauty and the Beast. So people thought, oh well, their top grossing movie, their top grossing movie ever will be very successful too. And if it will put Beyonce in it, and we'll have all the Beehive fans go to see it, and we'll put her as Nala. But during the editing process, one of the things she requested was that Nala have a bigger part, Nala Simba's wife, have a bigger part in the story than what she has in the original. Yeah, I love the live action Jungle Book as well, Lisa. It stood true to the original, what the original that Disney made. See, because one of the things with with the Jungle Book, they didn't stick to the original of the book that um AR R.W. Kipling had created, but Disney wanted to create his own version. But that's another thing altogether. But um, with the Lion King, Beyonce requested that the part of Nala have a bigger part, and that's exactly what it does. There's a part towards the end of it where she actually fights Scar, and she doesn't do that in the original. In the original Lion King from 1994, uh, Nala just marries Scar, and I mean, she stands. I mean, not she marries Scar. Scar marries Simba's mother, but um, she just accepts that Scar is the ruler of Pride Rock, and that's it. She plays a very minor role. She plays a major role in the sense that she's the one who convinces um, Simba to take responsibility for his actions and stop living such a carefree life with Timon and Pumbaa. But in the sense that she fights Scar, no, she doesn't fight Scar in the original. But because the person playing her voice was Beyonce, a major star in entertainment, and Beyonce being the kind of egotistical person that both she and her husband Jay Z are, she demanded a bigger role. She felt like she was putting those asses in the seat, and she was drawing the people to see it. I don't know if I really agree with that because people were going to see the Lion King anyway because it was the Lion King, and they wanted to see what Disney was going to do with the live action version. They weren't really going to care about who's playing the voices. I mean, people love Childish Gambino, but they weren't going to see um, Simba play the role of Childish Gambino, though. You know what I mean? Like, the voices really didn't matter, with the exception of James Earl Jones, who plays the voice of Mufasa. Like, and yeah, she messed it up. Lisa exactly wanted to be all about her. People were gonna go see the Lion King regardless if some bum lady off the street would have played the voice of Nala, just because it was the Lion King and just because of the branding, and, and just because of the mere fact, millennials like me, I was 10 when the Lion King first came out, and I loved the film. I mean, I was right around that age. I was right. I was right around that age when I was starting to get really out of Disney movies. But they had enough songs that we all sang in grade school, like Hakuna Matata, Circle of Life, Can You Feel the Love Tonight, etc. That we were still into at that point. And one of the things I loved about The Lion King was that, unlike most Disney movies, both The Lion King and Aladdin had male protagonists. and male antagonists. So it was it was not so much a movie geared towards girls like older Disney movies were, like Cinderella or Snow White. So it was something that a little boy like me could get into without feeling like, oh well, I don't want to watch this lame girl stuff. You know what I mean? Like they had male main characters. You know what I mean? Like, not that it really matters, but right. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Lisa. People want to see James Earl Jones is, to me, James Earl Jones is the most famous father ever in movies. He's the father of Luke Skywalker. He's the father in Coming to America. He's the father in the 1960s. I mean, he's the stepfather in the 1960s. In the 1960s urban movie Claudine, and he's the father in Lion King. So he is the most famous father ever, just with Coming to America, Star Wars, and The Lion King. He's the most famous father ever. Like, James Earl Jones is synonymous with being the father in terms of movies. He's kind of like Uncle Phil in Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Uncle Phil was everybody's dad on TV. Well, James Earl Jones is like everybody's dad, especially for 80s and 90s babies in movies. So, yeah. So Lisa's absolutely right. People wanted to hear James Earl Jones as the voice of Mufasa and really didn't care about the character of Nala because, like I said, Nala really didn't play a major role in the original Lion King. You know what I mean? Like it was Simba's girlfriend, yeah, and it was the one that convinces Simba to go back to Pride Rock. But other than that, she really wasn't a huge part of it. So if they thought if they thought that Beyonce was going to be a bigger part of of the story, and they had to change it for because of that, that's dumb because, well, the story is what the story is, and adding to it doesn't actually add to it. It takes away from it. And another thing I didn't like about the 2019 version was that it fe- Mufasa's death. Mufasa's death, to me, other than the shooting of Bambi's mom, which is a different generation, in our generation, um, the death of Mufasa was one of the ways that a lot of parents explain death to us as younger kids, because it deals with death in such a mature and emotional way. And the part when Simba goes over to his dad and touches his dad with his paw and tries to wake his dad up, and the dad doesn't wake up, that was really emotional to a lot of kids. You know what I mean? Like, it was on their level, and it was a way to explain, you know, why death happens. And even the song, The Circle of Life, it teaches us that life is indeed a circle. Like, Mufasa dies, but Simba takes on his responsibility. And one of the things that Simba learns is that even though that accident happened to his dad, it wasn't his fault. Because initially, Simba thinks that it is his fault because he went into the place he wasn't supposed to go into, and the hyenas attacked. But later on, he learns that it was Scar that orchestrated the hyena attack, and it was actually Scar who murdered his father. But Simba grapples with that guilt. And that's why he runs away from Pride Rock. And that's why he neglects his responsibilities. But the 2019 version didn't really touch on that much. I mean the scene where Simba dies, Mufasa dies, it didn't really connect with me in the same way that it did um in the original. And yeah, animation is and part of that, Lisa, and Lisa's exactly right. Part of that is because the technology is not there yet. We're not able to animate them computer animation CGI in the way that um they needed to be animated. So it just looks like a lion like just died on National Geographic, and you don't you don't see the kind of emotion that you see in the cartoon version, in the real life version, because technology is not able to achieve that. And another scene where that becomes apparent as well is the scene Can You Feel the Love Tonight? There is a scene in Can You Feel the Love Tonight where Simba and Nala are drinking they're drinking water, and Simba goes into the water and he starts swimming, and he pulls Nala in, and Nala, of course, lions are cats. Lions and cats are in the same family, and cats notoriously are afraid of water. They can't swim. So when Nala comes out of the water, she's like she's having a heart attack. She's so scared. But Simba, he's been living around with this pig and this meerkat for like 10 years now. And to him, it's second nature. So it shows how he shows how he's changed. Just that little scene where yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah. So sorry. Um One of the things like that scene is so crucial to the story because tells that really tells you what how they've changed, how them being apart for those number of years has changed both Simba and Nala. Nala is still in her lion mode where she's afraid of water. She doesn't eat bugs. Simba eats bugs. you know, you know what I mean. So Simba is like living a different lifestyle than Nala because they've been separated for so long. And the live action version, because of technology, is not able to show that. She doesn't go into the water and she doesn't come out scared. They completely skipped over that part. And because of that, um, you know, I feel like that that really missed a key component. And also, um, Beyonce's singing style is R&B, and the singing style in which this Elton John and Tim Rice wrote the songs is really more adult contemporary. So when Beyonce does a lot of like these riffs, that she does a lot of these like R&B style riffs, like the way Whitney Houston sang, or Aretha Franklin. It doesn't really fit the musical style of the original, so it kind of messes it up. And all you're thinking to yourself is, this is Beyonce um, singing songs from The Lion King. It doesn't really. You don't. You wanna. You want to suspend your disbelief. You know what I mean? In a movie, you don't want to see you don't want to see, for example, Sylvester Stallone playing Rocky. You want to see Sylvester Stallone as Rocky. So you want to, for the minutes that you're there, for the hour or so, or the hour and a half, or the 2 hours, or whatever, you want to believe, even though you know that it's not real, like these lions are not really talking or whatever. You want to believe that the lions are talking and suspend your disbelief for that minute, but you really can't when it's Beyonce, because all you're thinking to yourself is, "Oh, this is just Beyonce singing music from The Lion King," instead of this has Nala's actual thoughts and emotions. So um, that was my big gripe with it too. And they tried, but to me it was just like too National Geographic esque, and it looked kind of. Yeah, yeah, you're right, Lisa. Yes, she was over singing it. That's my point. She was ODing. Like, you're trying to make it R&B like, gospel ish, but the songs in The Lion King are not for that. They're not written in that style. So, um, sing it as it's meant to be sung. I'm not gonna sing opera, an opera song by Placido Domingo, and pretend like it's hip hop. Like that looks stupid. Like, I'm singing Ave Maria, and I'm like, yo, 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 yo. Like, you're bringing a completely different style into a musical that has a tradition and has a way that it's sung. So it comes off as basically you just trying to show off that you can really sing, but you're not singing it the way Tim Rice and Elton John composed the music to be sang. And the music and the songs from The Lion King, one of the reasons why The Lion King is the masterpiece that it is because it's 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 because of the songs. Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Beautiful song. Circle of Life, beautiful song. Um, um, Hakuna Matata, catchy song. Every kid um, really sang. You know, beautiful, timeless music that you could just listen to on its own. But again, Disney style is show tune style. I think the person that should have played Nala in The Lion King should have been, for the Lion King 2019 version, should have been Adina Menzel, the woman who played the voice of Elsa in Frozen, and who played Elphaba in the Wicked musical, because and who played Shelby in Glee, because why her? Because she's known for this style. She's great at this. Elphaba in Wicked, Shelby in Glee, and Elsa in Frozen, all is this show tune style. Beyonce, or is not a show tune singer. She's an R&B singer. She's a pop singer. It's completely different style, and it doesn't translate well to that style of music. Um, Lisa said 2019, the Warthog and the Meerkat were the funniest things. Yeah, but they weren't as funny as the original. The original Timon and Pumbaa, they were so successful, and they was the thing that kids really loved so much. They got their own spin-off on the Disney Afternoon. Um, they were really good at explaining, the point of view from younger kids. Like, a lot of times, what happened with them, a lot of times when you're younger and you have older brothers and sisters and they're starting to get into the opposite sex, Sometimes you don't understand why they don't want to play with you anymore, why they don't want to do the kitty stuff that they used to do, when you were younger. And a lot of times you do feel like Timon and Pumbaa in a way. You kind of feel like what they say at the beginning of Can You Feel the Love Tonight? Where it's like, uh, if Simba falls in love, he's not going to want to hang with us no more. So a lot of times, younger kids, do kind of feel that way about their older siblings. It's like before you were into girls or you were into guys, boys, you were hanging out with me, you were playing, we were doing our kid stuff, but now you've become a teenager. You've become into puberty and you're a little bit more mature. So they kind of feel like they've lost their connection with Simba. So their point of view was kind of that point of view of the younger kids like my age. You know what I mean? Like 10, 11, 8, 9. You know what I mean? Like the younger kids, like we could identify with them. Like, for example, when um, Pumbaa says that he farted in the well when he drinks the water. When Timon stops him, when you were a younger kid, you thought that was, I did anyway, you thought that was the greatest joke ever. Like, that he farted and he killed everybody in the savannah at the watering hole. you know, like, um, he says he got downhearted and all the other animals died every time he farted. And like, from the perspective of a younger kid, that was the funniest thing ever. You know what I mean? Like, audience is meant to sympathize. The younger, really audience is meant to sympathize with Simba when they're real, real young. When Simba and Nala are real, real, like when he sings, "I can't wait to be king." But when he's older, we're meant to more symbolize with Timon and Pumbaa. So even though I kind of agree with Lisa that they kind of look great and they look like a real meerkat and a real um, warthog, to me, Timon and Pumbaa, the way they were drawn, even though they didn't really look like the animals in the savannah in Africa, we didn't as kids, I didn't anyway, really know what a real meerkat and a warthog was. Like, they were anthropomorphic, so it didn't really matter what they looked like. Really, what mattered really was the points of views, the jokes they made, you know, and the point of view that they really expressed. Because you can really, as a kid, you could really sympathize with them because they were, their mentality was that of a younger kid. So, um, even even John Oliver. Now, people love John Oliver for his political views. He does that HBO show and stuff, and he gets on Trump a lot. But in this, they tried to replace him with Rowan Atkinson, with the bird, Zazu, and even he wasn't as good as Rowan Atkinson. You wouldn't think that Rowan Atkinson, who's notorious in Britain for the Mr. Bean character, which is a silent comedian, would be so good at a speaking part of Zazu. But he was better than John Oliver. I don't. The only thing I give the 2019 version credit on is just the way it looked. It looked so beautiful in the beginning, especially the opening shot when Rafiki puts the thing on Simba's head and Mufasa holds Simba up for all the other animals to see as it's going around showing all the animals popping up, and it's like, yeah, you know, like when it's saying those words, that's a cool part. Like, that's really cool You know what I mean? And they couldn't really express that in the cartoon, but that's the only really thing I liked about the 2019 more version more than the 2020 version. I just feel like, 19 version, 1994 version better than the 2019 version. Um, I just feel like, um, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. There was nothing about the Lion King that needed to be fixed or changed or anything. I mean, there were certain gripes that people said, like Mufasa and the lions were racist against the hyenas, but the hyenas were trying to kill them. So, I mean, of course, to expel them would only present right leadership on Mufasa's part. You know what I mean? So, I mean, if the hyenas weren't trying to kill them, they wouldn't have been expelled, right? So it's like in real life, sometimes we have elements of our society that are very dangerous and we don't want to live around them, not because of their race or not because of where they come from. I never really took it as that. I took it as, you know, them not wanting to be around them because they're trying to kill them. They're dangerous. Now they weren't dangerous because they're hyenas. They were just dangerous because they were evil. You know what I mean? So I didn't really see that. I think people will nitpick anything. I feel like The Lion King was the perfect story, a perfect Disney movie because it had everything. It had emotion, it had sadness, it had happiness, it had anger, it had love, it had humor, it had great music, it had great animation, and technology just really isn't up there to make a real good live action version. Yeah, I like the live action Jungle Book too, Lisa. But you got to remember, Lion King is different because there's no human beings. You know what I mean? Like, um, at least in the Jungle Book, you had Mowgli, you had other human beings, and I think the live action Jungle Book that was made um, in 2016 wasn't even the best live action Jungle Book. There was a Jungle Book made in 1995 um, that was just as good. That is like kind of like a sequel to the Jungle Book cartoon that was made in '67. You know, so I mean, it doesn't have the songs, but it's really good. But you're right. People did have a lot. A lot of people had high hopes for the Lion King in 2019, but it didn't meet expectations just because technology is not there. You know what I mean? They didn't really tweak much with the story except for the stupid Beyonce thing, which they didn't need to do, which I think um, was just to soothe Beyonce's ego. You know what I mean? Like she was probably like, I'm not gonna be in it if I don't have a bigger part than what's written there. So I have to have a bigger part, and she even took it and made Black is King and to put a different spin on it. Um, you know what I mean? But like they were just doing that to please her ego. You know what I mean? She pulls a diva move, and that really messed it up too. Because even though it's a small part, you can't I can't do a high school production of West Side Story and you know and put a part in West Side Story that's not in West Side Story. Like you have to tell it like it's written. You have to sing songs like they're written in the style they're written, in the cadence they're written. You have to do what the character does, even if it's a really small part. They tell you in drama class, no part is a small part because every part matters. So for her to go and switch it up and change it, you change the whole dynamic of the story. Because here's the thing: if Nala was capable of fighting Star, why didn't Nala fight Star? Why did she go get Simba? You know what I mean? You change the whole dynamic of the story just with that one part because you make the viewer question the whole narrative. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure in the time we live today with Disney pushing all these strong female characters, I'm sure they they probably wanted Nala to be the main protagonist of this story and switch the whole thing up. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And there was no way to technology wise to really remake The Lion King in a live action way. And they know this. Disney knows this. That's why they haven't done Robin Hood, the Robin Hood one that they did with the animals live action because it's all animals, and they know that it would look kind of dumb. You know what I mean? And 2019 was a good year for Disney, but financially, but critically, they had a lot of movies that people didn't like. And 2000 and Lion King's 2019 was one of them. Um, Another one was Toy Story 4, which Lisa has brought up, and Lisa and I have spoken about. Another one is Rise of Skywalker, which I've spoken about too. These are all movies where they made a lot of money, but in 20, 30 years, you won't remember that they existed because they were such, they were just money grabs by Disney. Um, they didn't even have the best comic book movie in 2019 either because Joker was better than Avengers Endgame, in my opinion. But as far as this, Dumbo was horrible too. That's another one. Um, yeah, because Lisa, they can't really do animals. Like I said, animals they completely dropped the ball with. Jungle Book was great, but that was the lone exception. They really need to work on their animation of animals and stay away from uh, the animal movies. I didn't see Aladdin, but I'm gonna check out the 2019 version. I mean, I mean, what was it? 2018, the new version of Aladdin, with Will Smith. I didn't really see it because I really did it out of protest because I love the original Aladdin so much that I felt like nobody could ever take the place of Robin Williams when he played the genie. So, and I never felt Will Smith was as funny as Robin Williams. So, um, I avoided seeing that too. Um, the only Disney live action that I've seen is the only Disney's live action remake that I've seen is Beauty and the Beast and Jungle Book. All the other ones, I just feel like you can't really touch these films. These films are classic films. Why don't they come up with different stories? You know what I mean? Like, and make them like they're relying a lot on these franchises because they know they make easy money and people want to see them, but people want to see them as they are. People want to remember classic movies as they are, not reimaginings. I mean, 20th Century Fox learned that with Planet of the Apes. Sometimes it works because you give a different spin on it, a different perspective on it. Like with the Creed movies, sometimes it doesn't work. Like with this, you know what I mean? Like you're saying that you're gonna stick to the original. Beauty and the Beast live action was good, Lisa. Yeah, you're right. And they did kind of add a different perspective on it with the prince, going back and imagining what he felt like when he had the spell cast on him and stuff. So you know that was pretty good. Um, but this one, I feel like other than the scenery, nothing really hits like the original. But anyway, guys, I'll be catching up with you guys later, and I'll probably do a review of a live action Hunchback of Notre Dame rather. Um, uh, Yeah, Lisa. I mean, that's gonna be good because there's no real animals in that. You know what I mean? So they don't have to worry about that. That's just people. You know what I mean? So, um, but that really wasn't. I mean, that's a beloved movie, but that really wasn't like by that time. Like after Pocahontas, um, Disney started to go really downhill. You know what I mean? So that one came out in '96, and that really wasn't one of them that really caught kids' attention like that. Because most kids found that story, kind of boring. You know what I mean? I know it's your favorite. It's one of your favorites. I know that personally. Me, I liked it somewhat, but like I said, by that time, people had moved on from Disney to Pixar. You know what I mean? So, and people were just into a lot of different stuff, and kids mostly found Hunchback of Notre Dame really boring, in my opinion. At least the kids I went to school with, and that was the general attitude, back then in '96, compared to The Lion King and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid. It really didn't hit with kids like that. Neither did Pocahontas, because again, I loved Pocahontas back in the day because I loved, history and stuff. You know what I mean? But and we were learning about it in elementary school at the time when Pocahontas came out. I remember that I told I told my fourth grade teacher, Miss Hager, I was like, I just saw a commercial for Disney releasing a Pocahontas movie in the summer, and we have been learning about Pocahontas, John Smith, and all that. Well, what Disney came out with was not the actual story of Pocahontas, was not really true to the history of it. Pocahontas was 12 when John Smith and them landed in America. She wasn't romantically involved with John Smith, although she wasn't romantically involved with a man named John Rolfe. you know, like Pocahontas 2 was more true to history than the actual, um, you know, Pocahontas, the movie with Mel Gibson. So um, they messed up so much with Pocahontas that I feel like they lost a lot of their momentum with it, with Lisa. So by the time Hunchback came out in '96, then later Hercules, then later, well, Mulan was different because, um, it had better songs, better comedy sidekicks, and it wasn't something I was really interested in because it was 1998 and I was already a teenager by then and I wasn't really watching, kiddie movies geared towards little girls. So Mulan really wasn't, in my wheelhouse um, in 1998. And then in 1999, um, you know, they came out with that movie that Roseanne was in, um, about barn animals, and Lion King was the end of it. Lion King was the pinnacle, and once you've reached the top, there's only one other direction to go in after that. That's down. And that's exactly what happened to Disney. I feel like Hunchback is in that kind of era, but it's '96, and Pixar is starting to gain headway, and pretty soon they will surpass Disney and leave Disney in the dust. So, Lion King was the last movie of my generation, anyway, that really captured the kids' imaginations. Um, Hercules wasn't able to do that. Mulan really wasn't able to do that. Um, Pocahontas certainly wasn't. And I don't think they dropped the ball on Pocahontas because of the history. Because, like I said, most kids were just learning about. We were just learning about, um, John Smith and English colonization of Virginia. We were just learning about that. So I don't think it was because the history is just because. I mean, that was really a poor choice. Why would kids really care about Native American history? Really, I don't know, like why they chose to do Pocahontas, but yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm kind of veering off topic. I like 1994's version. I feel like 1994 version was good for a number of reasons. And another reason I really didn't touch on was the voice acting. Um, 1994 version was voiced act by two child voice actors that I really love, two child actors that I really love that were important in the 90s. One was Jason Weaver, who sang the songs. And for those that don't know, Jason Weaver was the guy, the little boy who played little Michael Jackson in the only biographical film about Michael Jackson ever made, Jackson's American Dream. And he was the brother Marcus on the TV show Smart Guy. And the one who voiced him regularly when not singing was Jonathan Taylor Thomas. And Jonathan Taylor Thomas, who was the son in Home Improvement and who was really the star of Home Improvement, he was a bigger star than Tim Allen. He kind of looked like Tim Allen's real life son. Like if you looked at Jonathan Taylor Thomas, you looked at Tim Allen, you would kind of see the the physical resemblance between them. Like he could have actually been his father. But Jonathan Taylor Thomas was at the top of his game in 1994, and the fact that they got him was huge. He was at a WrestleMania even. He was seen playing chess with Bob Backlund in 1995. So yeah, Lisa. Overall, I loved The Lion King 1994. It's one of the biggest parts of my childhood as a kid growing up in the 90s. Be prepared, Hakuna Matata. I just can't wait to be king. The songs are classic songs, and it was a Disney movie for boys. So, of course, I identified, you know, with it. It was funny. It was sad. It was spectacular animation. This was just a stale retread, a stale remake, an attempt by Disney to to capitalize on the nostalgia of millennials. They figure millennials want to introduce their kids to the movies that they grew up with as kids, so they'll take them to see the Lion King. But they'll now they have Disney Plus. They'll just show them the original, and they'll look at the original like they do with Star Wars, and then, and they'll be like, "Man, the original is way better than the Disney version." You know what I mean? Like nothing compares to the original, um, Lisa. But anyway, guys, I'm gonna go now. So peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment below.